All right, it is preparing to live stream.
Your mic might not.
Okay, we are live, but we have about 2 minutes till 6.
There you go, you're on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code, Chapter 551, that the City of Smithville will conduct a planning and zoning meeting on June 2nd, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers located at 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. My name is Caroline Noya. I am the current chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I would like to introduce my coworkers to introduce themselves, my co-commissioners. Lee Kilgore, Vice Chair.
Ryan Wells.
Philip Slaughter.
And the other one that is missing tonight is Nancy Catherine. She recently had a health issue and she's out tonight. The first discussion and action that we have on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from March 3rd, 2026. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? And if so, do I hear a motion or corrections?
I have no corrections. I move to approve the minutes as written.
I second.
All in favor? Brian, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a chair and vice chair. Every 2 years, in conjunction with the mayor's term of office, our commission also can change our chair and vice chair. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I move to nominate Lee Kilgore to serve as chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of Lee Kilgore being the new chairman, you can vote.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Do we have a motion? Oh, that's for you for the vice chair.
I move that we nominate Caroline Noya as Vice Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Lee, you want to take over? You're the new chair.
Thank you. Item number 4, discussion and possible action of a presentation from Bastrop County Collaborative for Housing and Health. Would like to bring up Janice Bruno, 10-minute up to not to exceed 15-minute presentation.
Okay, good evening, Planning and Zoning. I'm Janice Bruno, 800 Burleson Street, Smithville, Texas, and I've been a resident in Bastrop County probably about 37 years. But I just want to tell you a real quick story of where this all began. Back in 2018, I was at the Smithville Community Clinic, and at that point in time, we knew we were getting calls all the time for ladies that needed housing. And hence, the House of Ruth was born in 2018 that housed 8 ladies. We actually went down to Victoria to see how all that was managed. Unfortunately, that particular housing project did not work, but we still knew that we had a need for housing in not only Smithville, but in Bastrop County, not only housing units, but rentals that were at a fair and reasonable price. But the whole goal of the housing that we did there at the House of Ruth at that point in time was we were trying to let ladies stay there for about 90 days. We worked with the Housing Authority trying to get them more permanent housing. So it was a temporary fix. Fast forward to 2020, when I became city council, I decided that we needed to do what we called housing huddles. And at that point in time, we conducted about 10 different housing huddles throughout the village, and getting feedback from various community partners of what types of housing we needed in Smithville, whether it be infill housing, rental properties. Used to carry my map around with me everywhere to show what was available. So that was in 2022. And at that point in time, Monica Paz, who's with me tonight, and Jill Struby, we were all working the housing issue. And so after that, nothing was formalized, but we definitely collected a lot of data at the time of what we were looking for. We looked at various things like community land trusts. We looked at TIRZs, all different things for the city of Smithville. But at that point in time, we invited the Texas Housing Foundation here from Marble Falls. I took a visit over to Marble Falls and we looked at their community resource center. We looked at their affordable attainable housing units that they had, and they have like 53 different units in the state of Texas right now where they can make affordable attainable housing. So now, then in 2024, the Bastrop County Collaborative for Health, Housing and Health Equity was formed, and Jill Struby was very instrumental, along with the Bastrop Public Health Department, wrote a grant to the St. David's Foundation, and we received $750,000 for this particular grant. You know, St. David's has been very, very generous to not only Bastrop County, but then to the Smithville community. So about the Bastrop County, up on the screen right now, it shows all of the 17 partners initially that got involved and stayed involved for a full year in 2025. So we started having meetings weekly. We had a policy recommendations team. That's the team that I was on, along with Sheila Lowe and Jody Smith and Jill Struby. And then we had a community pathways team that was made up of some of the other partners. And then we had a team that was called the Build Team, and that was with the architects. So we had these various teams. And so our team was supposed to go ahead and do policy recommendations. And that's why I'm here tonight to talk to you about some of those recommendations. So our guiding principles were that we were looking for housing that could be diverse, attainable, also equitable. So I'm just going to give you some real quick facts about what's going on in Bastrop County on the housing side. Next slide, please. 44. Listen, you all have a copy of what has been written, so I'm just going to go ahead and just quickly go through what all's happening right now, okay? So we know we're growing. We know we're growing at a rate of, I think, 29, 30%. That's absolutely insane what's going on in the county. Everybody sees it, they feel it, they know it. I think we know it even in this town as far as what's available for lease, what's available for sale, how much things are, what people can afford. So there's about 35,000 households in Bastrop County out of the 102,000 population. 75% of those households, they owned their homes, okay? But 23% of those homeowners are actually cost burdened. When I say cost burden, that's 30% AMI, okay? Which means like if a person's, like a firefighter or a teacher or whatever, they're not making that kind of money, they have to be able to at least have $1,887 a month just to be able to either afford to buy or rent a home. And this is what the focus was, is what are we doing for our workforce? What are we doing for our firefighters? What are we doing for our paramedics? They're not at the median income right now in Bastrop County, which is running about $92,000, $82,000, okay? So income really does matter. And so we looked at all what various cities were doing around the United States, and we looked at what was called the Accelerator Playbook, which is a 2024 document that was put together by the American League of Cities, and we studied that. We also studied what Waco was doing, and we looked at Chicago, we looked at Cleveland, we looked at Tacoma, Washington, we looked at all the various places in United States that were really struggling with affordable and attainable housing. So what we had to do for our particular team was come up with some policy recommendations. Now, the other thing that we did during this year was that the community pathway team, we brought people in from a company called Adiza, which is out of Austin, Texas, and out of Houston. They came in, the grant paid for them to come in. We met at the rec center here on several occasions, and we asked the community voices what they wanted to see if we were to put together some sort of a plan, which are laying here on the table. And I can cover those briefly. So we asked, what are some of the essential things that you want to see? We want a community that's walkable. We want a community that's going to have, places where I can go grocery shop. We want to, all the different things. We had seniors, we had veterans, so that we did this in Elgin, and we did it in Bastrop, and we did it in Smithville. So I want to say we collected all that data. The Community Pathways team collected all that data. And we had about, 200 folks that were involved. Now, that's not a lot when I say there's 102,000 people in Bastrop County, but it was a good sampling of what people were looking for in a community. So fast forward, we went ahead and the policy team went ahead and reviewed all the ordinances in Elgin, Bastrop, and Smithville, and we looked for what might be causing barriers for this affordable, attainable housing. And that information is in the report. So that required the policy team members to go ahead and pull the ordinances out for each of the municipalities and say, okay, like for example, for Smithville, our ADUs, they have to be at least 700 square feet. In Elgin, they have to be 10,000 square feet. So we said, okay, well, a lot of these tiny homes are like 460, they're 500 square feet. So what could we do to have additional accessible dwelling units that wouldn't have to meet that requirement? So we looked at that as maybe that's a barrier, okay? So there were several things that's in the guide that we found in the ordinance. For example, the 2.5 story, and then the minimum setbacks. And then we looked at, I think it was minimum lot size. So there were a lot of different things that we looked at. And then when we finished doing that, we said, okay, what can we do to continue this process? Because the $750,000, it didn't all get used. It now is going to move into this year. And we have been able to form a website for this collaborative. And we are going to continue the collaborative. But we said, you know what we need? We need buy-in. We need buy-in from the municipalities to say, this is important. So on City Council on Monday night, I've talked with Sharon, I've talked to the city manager about passing a resolution, okay? And part of what we're recommending right now is that we get a resolution. Each person on the policy team will go like before Elgin, before Bastrop, to say, hey, this is important. We want to pass a resolution to focus on this and be able to form a commission that focuses, just like you all do, planning and zoning, where we would form a commission that focuses on housing affordability and attainability. So we had 7 different recommendations. That was pretty much the first. They said, well, we probably should talk to P&Z first. I don't need a decision from you all, but I did want to have buy-in, or at least have you be informed of what this committee did for a full year. We met every week for a full year, and that was all 3 committees. And St. David's has been very gracious. So at the very end, we came up with two designs, and these were done by an architect that did the same community first development. Right now, the build team is looking for properties. We're looking for 18 to 20 acre properties. We have a listing of about 100 different properties. And so what we're doing going forward is we have a capital stack team, and Jill and I actually sit on that team, looking for the funding, about $75 million. But St. David's, as gracious as they are, is going to come out with another grant in the fall, and they want to participate and help. But we're also looking at other capital stack partners that might want to do the build. So what I've got laid out on the table here would be what these communities could look like. Okay, so they're a visual. They're not right now anywhere. They've looked at the property in Elgin. Of course, I'm selfish. I want to do something here in Smithville. But we've got one that's an 18 acre and one that's a 20 acre. So the 18 acre would be on septic, the 20 acre would be adjacent to a municipality. It would have all those things that the community said they want to have. So moving forward, we really want to get this commission started, that we've got people dedicated, because if you don't focus on something, it just goes by the wayside. And I know that, like I said, we did those housing huddles back in the day. We still have all that data. In fact, we used a lot of that informed data when we worked through this. But we really have got to solve the issue, and it has to happen with collaboration and partnerships. So moving ahead, like I said, we have to raise 75 million. The property team right now is looking at sites, developer criteria. The pathway team, they're still that same team. They're going to continue to outreach. We're going to have a website. We're going to get people excited to get involved. And right now we're looking at building political will. So each community, if this is important to the community, they'll pass a resolution, we'll form a commission, and the volunteers that are currently doing this now will continue to do it, but we'll bring on more volunteers. So that's really where we're at. We really just want to encourage the development of safe, attainable, and affordable housing. Do you have any questions? And I know that was fast and furious. 11 minutes. Woohoo! Well, shocking.
Do we have any questions?
I'm curious about the code barriers. You mentioned one. I assume y'all probably came up with more than that.
There were like 4 or 5 for Smithville. Elgin had way more, so did Bastrop. That really wasn't so much the focus, but I knew when we were looking at this, doing the housing huddles, we had issues with accessible dwelling units. We had issues with minimum lot size. So did the other so did the other cities.
When
But
we were doing the housing huddles, we actually put together when we were doing the housing huddle, we put together a quite a longer list
Yes.
of things that could be done with zoning changes to encourage more affordable housing. For example, allowing more accessory dwelling units in our single family zoned areas, not to increase density significantly, but to a larger degree. And you could add, 100 units that way.
And, we looked at what other cities are doing for community land trust, housing trust. Of course, when they said the housing trust fund comes out of the general fund, I go, that ain't happening here. But it does happen in some other communities. So did she answer your question, Brian?
Sure. I assume at some point, if there were code barriers that y'all wanted us to address, then you'd bring them specifically.
Well, and the other thing is on housing, like I wish, the housing board, we have a housing board here, 87 units, right? We even looked at, oh my gosh, she's been there forever. Rhonda, we looked at the 2 acres there in the housing authority, and what could we do there? In fact, we had the Texas Housing Foundation look at it. I mean, what could we do with there's properties that there's already land available? The biggest piece is going to be the land. Buying that land, where's that land? We need 18 to 20 acres to do the vision that's right here. But, I said this the other day when, I'm going to say it, when Helen Wiseman's property came up, 152 acres, 6.2 million, what can we do with that? So believe me, I put that out there to the build team and said, hey, you could plop down a few of these. And, you just got to have that vision going forward to what we can do for attainable, affordable housing. So if we can at least get the resolution done, we can form a committee, which we will continue to do the work. And then we also had some things in there about if you're going to sit on a board, like similar for you all, if you're going to be on the planning zoning board, you want to have the expertise that's on the board. Same thing with the housing advisory board that we have, that Rhonda's got. Somebody that really is involved with affordable attainable housing should be sitting on that board. So we're going to make that recommendation too. Any other questions?
Before we have some new developments here, several years ago, City of Smithville outlawed garage apartments. Whatever was there was already grandfathered in, but they denied having more of them. To me, that would be one option to go back and have some garage apartments, allow garage apartments as ADUs. But I don't know if the city would agree to that again, because there was a big discussion, I think, when you were on council.
I
when that-
think, right, and I think as we really get some narrow focus, let's just look at Smithville, right? 2,200 resident, what the infill looks like, working with economic development, and get some focus again, what could be done here? So that's what we're trying to do, is just put some focus on this so that we can stay with it and solve the problem.
Another thing is when certain special use permits were issued,
Yes.
once that special use was finished, those buildings kind of became ADUs
Yes, they did.
without some proper enforcement from the city. So I don't know if the city manager would have something to do with that, or the city council or
So I
something.
appreciate you being here, and I know Jill can probably say a couple things. I'm sorry I'm over my time.
I just wanted to say one real quick thing. Janice had mentioned that we need $75 million. That's if we would do one of these all in its entirety. I don't want people to get freaked out about that. It's a capital stack team. We are looking to see how we can phase this. So, we wouldn't necessarily, we don't need $75 million all tomorrow. Like, we'll be looking for different ways to develop different partnerships, to find different avenues for funding, all those things. Probably start with like phase one is this piece here that would be a much more affordable, attainable for us to build these pieces, and then do that through phasing work. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Of course, I want the 6.2 and the 75 million. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? I have questions.
Of course you do.
In reference to the brochure,
Yes, ma'am.
I am not opposed to this at all. It's necessary. It helps our entire community in terms of bringing our firemen, teachers, social workers in the community, in housing that they can afford and live in the community where they work. So that all in. My concerns go to planning and zoning ordinance changes that are not subdivision-like communities. When you look at setbacks that go instead of 25-foot setback to a 3 to 5 foot setback in a community that has a street of 25-foot setbacks, my concern is I am not in favor of approving a 3 to 5 foot setback on an existing lot line for visibility and all the safety issues that we have out there. So, and I'm not sure how those concerns, based on this collaborative effort and the recommendations that are in here, how are you proposing that the resolution address these things? In other words, if the resolution were to pass and these are the recommendations in the collaborative, they need to be discussed, because a public hearing, et cetera, like,
Yeah,
I do not want a 3 to 5 foot setback right next door to me that ruins my sightline.
we're not that far, Lee. We really want the resolution just to say, we want the support and we want to form a commission.
Okay.
That's the start. That's what the resolution says. So it does
Okay.
not give any of what we've recommended in the resolution for any municipality. Those would all have to be worked on by that particular commission.
Got it. To Brian's point.
Yeah, we're not there
Okay.
yet. We're just beginning.
So, and again, just, I'm gonna give you my highlights on my questions so that you
Please
have
do.
them and are aware of them in case and whenever you bring this forward. Penalties for pulling permits. Permits are totally avoidable. In my opinion, if they are fined, it is because the homeowner or land owner is not coming to the city to find out what they're supposed to do in terms of Smithville Code of Ordinance 3.02.34.
Concur. Yes, and.
Just going to run through it
yeah.
right quick. Because it's not going to be discussed today, but I just want you to
No,
be
thank
aware of it.
you, thank you.
Okay, so all zoning categories have a height restriction of 2.5 stories. In my opinion, limit it to the ADUs. I have always heard at council that the reason that we don't go beyond 2 stories is because we do not have a lift truck that allows the opportunity to put out a fire on higher, right? So we
guess.
fix that issue, and commentary for another day, offline. We fix that issue, totally agreeable. High density, tall, thin townhomes, workable.
Thank you.
My other question is about, all right, so this minimum lot size of 6,500 square feet is for SF1, SF2 mixed use. Could your zoning ordinance identify tiny home at 400 square foot rather than change an entire ordinance that says this SF1, SF2 mixed use would be minimized? It still keeps your, 6,500 square foot lot. The other thing that I noticed is that your minimum lot size, our minimum lot size in the city of Smithville is the smallest of
It
all
is.
3, right? You've
Yes.
got 33.33 of an acre in Bastrop, and you've got 10,000 square foot in Elgin, and we're at 6,500.
Yes.
We're already tight.
Thank you.
That was just a commentary, right?
I'm going to have you come on the commission.
No, you're not. I just became chair. Okay, so
Monica's taking notes. We're good.
well, and I'll give you my book. So
Thank
how's
you.
that? The question of construction, you're saying quality of construction, that you need to have construction is less expensive or affordable for low-income households. I don't know how you define that, but quality, we all know about D.R. Horton, all those things. So I feel like our affordable impact on building needs to be addressed in terms of what are we actually building. We do not want to put our lowest income residents at risk for having a development that is not meeting a standard. Lower parking minimums. Allow 0 to 1 parking space per unit with flexible parking arrangements. We need at least 1. I don't agree with no parking. We don't want to get into a situation where you're in an affordable housing with higher density homes and then not have parking allowed and then impacting your next door neighbor. When you're in a tiny home subdivision, you're allowing for parking.
Correct.
So I think that we have to address that as well. And then the minimum required setbacks, reduce required setbacks to 3 to 5 feet. I have a question on the visibility and the safety.
Thank you.
Budget, let's talk about budget. We don't have a budget. To your point of general funds, if you're going to create a commission and you're going to require an employee from city manager's team to sit on this commission, they have to be paid in some form. We had a issue come up at city council meeting recently where we're paying overtime or comp time or whatever for employees that are serving outside regular hours.
Point.
You're also asking for minutes, legal notice, any kind of certification and letters and stuff like that. That is a budget line that needs to be addressed. I don't want to get cart before the horse in terms of a resolution being passed without having those kinds of conversations. Because, we're in a very tight budget situation here. And I think that, oh, looky there. Highlights in
Thank you, Leah.
yellows. I don't know how the citywide vacant property plan works. Because if you're exploring and implementing, I would assume that some volunteers are still, your committee of folks that are doing volunteer work are still kind of working that angle and not putting that burden
No.
financially on the city. So that's fine. But I do think that that needs to be delineated. Otherwise,
I appreciate you
I-
looking at that.
yeah,
Very, very good. Did you take all those good notes, Monica? Like I said, we're
you
just
can get the recording.
getting started, so I'm really happy that you took.
Yeah,
that.
so, I
Yeah.
mean, again, this is something that since I've been in the city for 3 years, we've talked about at huddles or other meetings, and it is an absolute
Mhm.
goal to get the city in that. And I think that for us, we appreciate you coming forward and talking about it. My concerns for the line item number 4 is discussion and possible action on the presentation. It's really related to the resolution. And in terms of the resolution,
Have you looked at it, the resolution that we sent?
yes.
Okay.
So page 2 of the resolution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth whereas on page 2, because I think there's 25 of them.
Sure.
How is the city going to fund the cost of providing affordable housing? It should not disproportionately be borne by any single sector of the community, and any solutions should be equitably apportioned the cost based on impact generation, growth inducement, and the underlying goals to provide a cross-section of units in our community to maintain a healthy economy and diverse population. Funding is really the issue. How are we going to do that?
Right.
We need further discussion, I think, before agreeing to now therefore it be resolved that the foregoing whereases are hereby ratified and confirmed. I think that they're true and correct. It is my opinion and my recommendation, and I'll ask the commissioners their input, but I think that this needs more review
No problem.
and prior
Mhm.
to taking it to city council, but I think that I would like to see whether or not we can vote on the resolution as it's listed, or how would you like to present to city council?
I think it needs some more public input before it goes to
Yeah,
city council.
Absolutely.
You know,
We can defer it too.
I
It
mean, we
doesn't-
just, I think we had a very long workshop today on another issue.
Yep.
Have something like that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking, but
Yep, and I would agree. I think that the idea of affordable housing is something that is extremely important. So I love the concept because there are so many citizens who would be served
Mhm.
very well by something like this. But for a lot of the reasons that you brought up and having to merge those changes with our existing ordinances and our existing requirements, I think it would behoove us to put more time into
Absolutely.
merging those two. Conceptually speaking, I think it's wonderful. It's just, I feel like there's some merging that needs to happen. As far as the funding portion of that, the good news is that we're in the process of creating or working on the new budget for the new fiscal year. And again, this isn't a budgeted item, and I don't know as a city manager what cost expectations that you would have. It does,
None right now.
well, I mean, and I understand, but it does simply say, I think it's section 10 maybe, that the city shall be responsible for all financial costs associated with board activities. Given that I don't know what that is, it's not that, I'm not responsible for the budget, the council approves the
Right.
budget. But I do want to incorporate it into the budget, but I need to have an idea of what those costs might be. It could be extremely minimal. It could be postage only. But whatever it is, we want to make sure that we're aware of that before it arrives. So I think there's two concerns to be addressed. The concerns that were brought up and also cost expectations. And I feel like it would be beyond those two things. I feel like it's an amazing idea. And, for a community that the average income isn't extremely high, this is like extremely important. So I love the idea. I just feel like we need to do a little bit more work, and I love your support, and I think the idea of a committee makes sense. Everything you've said makes sense. It just feels like we should do a little bit
We're
more due
moving
diligence.
fast, right?
Yes, you're doing, this is a great idea.
So maybe we do a public hearing, we do a town hall, bring in, I mean, we've brought the community in, they've told us what they want, but now bring the community in, because if we're going to do a resolution, like you said, we can make modifications. That resolution was actually designed by our policy team, okay? So it can be changed. And actually, I think that's a great idea. We can maybe present it and just have discussion at this council meeting coming up, and get some feedback from the council members at that time, plus your feedback, and then we make the amendments. No
And-
problem.
In addition to that, the last thing that no one wants to say the L word, lawyer. Um, But we obviously have to run any ordinance past our
You
attorney.
mean
and
the
that might take-
resolution, yeah,
Yeah,
no
any
problem.
resolution. It would take just a little bit. I mean, as a council member, you know way more about this than
No problem.
most, but
Yeah.
I think that's an important step that we also have to take.
We've been working on this for a whole year. I mean, we're just going to continue to work on it, and however long it takes, whatever we got to tweak, we're going to tweak. And I appreciate you all taking the time tonight, though, to at least listen to the first cut. Thank you.
So would you like a motion? I move that we would postpone the implementation of any of this. I think it needs more public discussion.
Okay.
Before we move forward presenting this to the city council.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Real quick, if I can,
Sorry.
perhaps the motion should be to table as opposed to postpone. Would that make any difference from your perspective?
No, not you.
I'll
Table.
amend it to
Amend the
table.
motion.
Now, as far as a public discussion then, who do you want to lead that? I mean, can I lead it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like if we call a meeting, I go to Jennifer, hey, we're going to call a public meeting, right? Okay, perfect.
So I will amend the motion to table this until the next, until a public meeting can be called.
And then you'll have it taken off of the agenda for Monday.
No, we don't have to necessarily. We've already posted, so we can't remove. So you can still present
Okay,
the thoughts to the council. It's just,
And just
That's-
tell them that it's going to be a
Got it.
meeting.
right.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
Wait, did I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Don't see any opposed. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was my first one.
Okay. Oh. Now on to business. Item number 5, discussion and action on a variance on an interior side yard setback at 1020 Wilkes Circle, property ID 17152, Colorado Heights, Block B, Lot 1, property owner Michelle and Frank Zietz? Zeitz, thank you. Agent Corey Max. Corey, if you would please state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Corey Max. I'm the agent representing Frank and Michelle Zeitz. You said you need my address or the address of the property?
Address of the property is fine.
Okay, 1020 Wilkes Circle is the location of the project. That is in Colorado Heights subdivision, Lot 1, Section B. Just to give you a quick rundown on how we landed here, on January 19th of this year at 4:03 a.m., Michelle and Frank sadly had an electrical fire occur in their home. They woke up, called the fire department, they put the fire out, and very quickly after, they hired a restoration team to come in and do a restoration of the home, right? Unfortunately, at that point, they changed 50% of the appraised value. So they took all the sheetrock out, they, removed any fire damage that they could. And because it changed 50% of the appraised value, unbeknownst to them at the time, it's going to require them to follow the code here. As you can see up there, when the home was built back in, I believe, 1983, they built it 5 feet from the property line, as you can see there. And my understanding is that the code is that it needs to have a setback of 7.5 feet to the structure. So we're here today to apply for a variance to allow us to rebuild the structure exactly how it was. We're not changing the footprint in any way. And you know, she's been displaced from her home since January. I think, you know, we were on track to get this started and get it built, take it down and get it rebuilt. And then I came across this survey and realized instantly that we needed to talk to the city about what we were going to do before we got started. So, you know, I'm sure you've all read the application, tried to plead our case as best we could there. So, you know, if we don't get the variance, then it would require us to have to cut the concrete slab, which she would lose roughly 75 square feet of her living space. And it would also incur some more costs for her as well, because the outside of the home is where the beam is poured. That's structural. So once we cut that off, we're gonna have to also come underneath the house, pour footers to ensure that the house is going to hold the weight of the lumber that we put on top of it. So, yeah, I mean, that's our case, to this point. Hopefully, you know, we can get to city council, and then city council can grant us the variance, and we can, get them back in their home as soon as possible.
And if I can add, Mr. Max has been, and the Mr. and Mrs. Zeitz have been very patient. They did meet with staff and myself as well in the city manager's office, and they missed the window to get to the P and Z just by a hair due to posting requirements, and they just barely missed it. So I applaud, you know, their patience for one, and from the city's perspective, at least, and I know this is a P and Z decision, but from the city's perspective, I think that it makes sense to support them in rebuilding as it was. But please don't take that as me putting my finger on the scale. It's just, and from our perspective, given that they're not changing what was, and they're building to the exact standards that it was at the time, it would probably be a good thing for us to support them. But again, your decision.
Has anybody signed up to speak?
No one from the public has signed up for or against the item. And I just wanted to add that I have been working with Mr. Corey Max as well. And again, I don't think it's a crazy variance request. They're literally asking to build their home where it was. But my main reason for talking is because I want to give them kudos to filling out that application, because usually it's like pulling teeth to get people to fill those out. So good job, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
I just want to comment. It seems like we're all familiar with the 50% rule. I appreciate you bringing it forward and making it real clear that it does trigger that. And, you know, the history of that originally came from FEMA, and it's gotten built into city codes throughout America. And from my understanding too, it's also so the 50% rule requires you then to build to current code. You don't grandfather anything in at that point. But from my understanding too, it's pretty common practice to grant minor variances in situations just like this, despite the 50% rule. And so I think we'd be very much in line with the spirit of it to grant this variance. So I'm supportive of it. Yeah.
I did have one question, if I can. And correct me if I'm wrong, without getting too into the personal process. When you have a structure fire that completely destroys a property, or at least 50%, so you have to start from zero, does the insurance company take into account the costs associated with essentially bringing those properties up to code?
They took it into account. Maybe, what would you say, Michelle? Maybe not to 100%, I guess. We did have some back and forth with the insurance company for sure. Initially, they wanted her to leave the walls up and only take the roof off. And I highly advised against that, because there was smoke damage on the interior walls, exterior walls, about 2 feet down all the way around. So to answer your question, not all the way, really, they didn't. And that's kind of typical of insurance companies. They, you know, they have a bottom line that they're trying to meet. And you know, they're just doing their job, but we worked through that and we got, Michelle as much as we possibly could, and then,
Well, and that was kind of my point, is to show that you've gone through every step that you could go through to try to get it to the point to where if that was a hurdle that couldn't be overcome, at least you can say that you tried that.
yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that that. had
And
happened.
I'll also add that the rest of the home will now be within code besides this setback, right? So everything else will be up to code according to, you know, what we need to do here today.
And you articulated my point better than I did. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
And I have a comment on, as a member of the fire department, I do remember that. And I'm sorry that that happened. I think that not allowing them to build back the way it would be an unnecessary hardship that just, I'm going to support.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll, go ahead. My back's
Oh, I would recommend approval of the variance on the interior side yard setback at 1020 Willet Circle, property ID 17152, Colorado Heights, Block 1, Block B, Lot 1, property owner Michelle and Frank Zeitz, Agent Corey Max.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Item number 6, discussion and action on a minor replat of lots 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of block 125 and A46 Lomas L acres 1.5220 unopened streets and tract B 0.486 acres of Roger Byrne addition, property owner Johnny Thomas Sr. Please
Yes,
introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
I'm Johnny Thomas Senior. I live at 1545 FM 2104 in Page. I'm actually purchased and acquired this property from the Helwicks, which I am going to be quitclaim deeding over to two of my sons, Joshua and Jeremy Thomas. They both live at Whitehead right now, 100 Whitehead and 106 Whitehead, where we built homes there 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Families have grown since then, need more room. So by getting these lots from the Helwicks, I acquired another half acre that adjoins it. So it'll be a total of 2 acres, which will be divided exactly in half. And each one of them will build new single-family homes on the properties. One will enter off of First Street. That's where the lower one will enter, and the other one will enter off of Second Street. Other than that, it's pretty cut and dry and simple.
Is anybody signed up to speak?
No one from the public has signed up for or against the item.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I do have a question. So, first of all, thanks for, it's a very complete package. I appreciate you providing all of that for us. But my question is, the zoning listed in the application says that both lots would be on SF1, but our zoning map shows the bottom portion shows part of lot 6B to actually be in the industrial district zoning. And I was wondering if you had looked at that.
Yes, but we're not doing anything industrial other than a single family resident, so that would probably be, we would ask that we would convert that all to SF1.
Sure. And yeah, and I should have clarified my comment better, because the industrial district zoning doesn't allow residential. And so, yes, you'd have to convert that into one of the single family zonings.
Yes, sir.
Tracy, did you have any update on that? As we replat, we go to SF1, is that correct?
Well, no, that's when you annex. So
Sorry.
right now, the only thing we are discussing is all of his lots that he has, that he's wanting to combine all of them into these 2 lots. As far as the zoning, if that wasn't discussed with the building official or whatnot, I'm not aware of that. I'm only aware of the replat presented before us.
mean, that can be brought up at a later.
So in my opinion,
Thank you.
given that it's in an industrial zone, you could approve the joining of the lots and also essentially turning that into 2 1-acre lots. But however, prior to any construction, then you would have to revisit the issue to change the zoning from industrial to, single family.
Sure. It's some use that allows for the family housing, yeah.
I'll be real honest with you. I didn't even know that that was zoned industrial. I always thought it was SF1. It's news to me today, honestly.
And
Yeah.
so it's essentially just 2 requests or 2 items to consider versus 1.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an extra step.
Can we recommend the replat? Pardon
We
me?
cannot talk about zoning. All
Okay,
we can
all right.
act on.
Okay.
So well,
Yes, come back to
the,
planning and zoning.
yes, unfortunately, I'd have to confirm with Tracy or Jennifer or one of the ladies who, kind of oversees this, but I would think that this body could call an additional meeting in a short period of time to not have to wait for next month's agenda if it so desired, but please don't quote me on that. I just have to confirm.
Sure.
I think it's going to go to city council for recommendation and approval. So it would go just as listed to minor replat.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay. Good discussion. Any further questions? I call for a motion. Pause. Granted.
Yeah, it would be worth double checking.
Could you zoom in on the map when you get a chance to show the exact location?
It's the L shape and the one just plants out. The one closer to that. Yeah, that one doesn't show the lot line. There's a lot line now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does say the uses or cumulative rights of use, all uses permitted in C3 districts are permissible in the industrial district. And the last of my knowledge, you could have a home in C3, you just can't have a home and use it as a business. It's like you have to pick which cake or the icing, yeah. But again, that's desk work and I'm not at my desk.
Hmm.
So approving as is may actually accomplish both.
Yeah.
Depending on
Potentially.
the desk work.
I don't have any other comments. You addressed my only other question was the access, and you made that clear.
Okay.
Could we ask the question, how quickly you would very much like to move forward with the construction? Is that something that we have time to, if we need to revisit, come back?
Oh, plenty of time.
Because it's not like you're not starting construction next week.
No.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
So I'll move that we approve minor replat of lots 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of block 125 and 846 Lomas L acres 1.5220 unopened streets and tract B 0.486 acres Roger Byrne addition, property owner Johnny Thomas Sr.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Approved. We are adjourned. Thank you.